When you hear technologies like blockchains develop and you understand how they work, you can't help but feel that maybe this is the answer to this problem that I'm referring to, Cambridge Analytics and all the Facebook debacles and the way that we, take elections in the US were influenced, and elections during the Brexit were influenced, and all these, shams out there. Welcome everybody, and not sure what this channel is going to be called yet. This is my second actual recording. Not sure it will be played in second position, but this is really me getting in sort of blogging or vlogging mode, as we call it these days. I realized that with our neighbors building SymbionIQ Labs and all our projects, I kind of need to be a bit more active in the world and engaged with you good people about what we are trying to build. So here it is. Hopefully this can help sort of build a small community of people who are like-minded or interested in what I'm talking about. Right, today I want to talk about all these new tech. So I am not an expert in blockchain technology, or as I've seen written elsewhere, I could say I'm an expert since yesterday. This is probably the right way to talk about this. So I'm an expert since yesterday, and I just want to sort of document where I'm at and this understanding and why I'm excited about this technology, what it can do for the world. I've been a tech geek for well over, 50 years. No, 50 years, I'm 52. So that'll be 40 something. Because I got my first computer when I was 13, roughly, I think. I think I caught the bug right then. Or I had it already because I was interested in electronics, so I had a technology budget long time. You get it through the pandemic, and there's a lot of things that are happening in the world. You kind of wonder where everything is going. You kind of realize the governments are ill-equipped to deal with things. You got all these big corporate technology companies who are now almost like a country. You have Zuckerberg talks almost like he's the president of some sort of nation. Steve Jobs and team now, let's say, not sure, but they're all leading the world, and they're competing away with government. So you kind of feel that there's something's not quite right. I mean, I would like to think that governments are good, and then you need to be able to trust the country in which you're in. Well, I don't mean this to be a political discussion, but I'm a big proponent of democracy, and not really friendly with anything that's more autocratic. But when you see technology like blockchain come up, and I've heard all the criticisms, it's not a very healthy thing to think of the blockchain as a tool to evade control or government control in one side, and that a lot of criminal organizations are using it, etc., etc. Well, that's at least the stereotype that they would have you believe, and it must have been true in some ways. And then today with Ukraine and what's happening in Russia and all the restrictions on Russian funds, you got to wonder how much of it is now channeled through crypto, and tries to invade the AML restrictions. But okay, that's not my point. I just want to talk about why I think blockchains are important and interesting in their model. So a part of the want to evade government scenario, which I think will disappear because I think blockchain needs regulation in some ways. They need to be taken care of. I think there's an interesting scenario here because they are what I would call digitally native. Digitally native means that we are living in a world that's increasingly, connected to the internet, and then we're rolling out now technologies where the Internet of Things is going to be everywhere. You've got all these cameras, all these sensors, all these devices everywhere around smart city scenarios, around smart, agriculture, industry 4.0. I mean, not to throw buzzwords out there, but they're an increasingly connected world, and technology, infrastructure technology in terms of network is following. We've got now 5G that's rolled out in urban areas. It's not everywhere yet. I mean, it's a bad case because we don't even have 3G in particular places. I remember hunting dead houses in rural areas and having zero network, and so I can't work from there because if you don't have network, how's that going to work at all? But these things are, and now you've got satellite solutions with Elon Musk's Starlink protocol being rolled out everywhere. So all these sort of internet deserts are disappearing, and we're having now base infrastructure pretty much everywhere. And that's a good thing because, you can argue the evils of internet, but there's a lot more benefits to that side. So, it's really been transformation of the last 10 years that, people can have access to information the way they do. And of course, that access comes with responsibilities and there's a lot of people fighting to control that and, use that as a sort of coercive measures to understand what the population thinks and wants. And we've seen all the, evil sides of what we call Web 2 in the Web 3 world, which is big corporate owning data about their users, and that data either getting hacked or mined or exploited in ways that users weren't privy to or in agreement to. I'm referring to Cambridge Analytica and all the Facebook debacles and the way that we, take elections in the US were influenced, and elections during the Brexit were influenced, and all these, shams out there. So when you hear technologies like blockchains develop and you understand how they work, you can't help but feel that maybe this is the answer to this problem, and that we are going to see a new era of technology that's going to be more in defense of the user, privacy, and Apple's a good champion of that, although they still remain a big corporate that owns everything. But you can argue that compared to Google, probably they monetize, at least openly, their data a lot less than Google does. Although it's in French we call it bonnet blanc et blanc bonnet, the white hat and hat white, which means it's the same. Back to my point, I think we are going to see an era where possibly the user rights are going to be defended a bit stronger, and there'll be less of those issues that we talked about with Cambridge Analytica and big corporate tech owning all the data. So, more to this point, but I think interesting the development of something like the blockchain, where you can actually have a very transparent, and doesn't mean you can't encode stuff on it, but a very transparent ledger, smart contracts that record everything that happened with all the transactions between the parties, so you can actually understand that later on. But also where it's immutable, which means that once it's there, it can't be removed because it's distributed in a decentralized manner, and that decentralization, will come back on that, is not always fully achieved at this stage, because this is a new technology, and there's a lot of infrastructure that need to be built, and there's always arguments against that. People saying, well, hang on, if I own the majority of the servers or a majority of the tokens in case of blockchain, then I do own the decision. And another party that says, well, all these are URLs pointing to storage of data somewhere on a server, and if I own the server, I'm the farmhouse with all the server, then I own the data, indirectly. Although that you could be owning something that's really encoded and can't actually crack it. But yeah, these are all the arguments, pros and cons. Me, I'm an optimistic, so I look at this and I'm thinking, well, there's something there that's interesting and that's better than, or at least tries to be better from an intention point of view than the actual existing model. So I don't want to break the existing model. That's not me. I'm not an anarchist. I don't really want to destroy government or anything like that. Far from it. I actually think we need that framework. But I'm a technologist and a futurist with an interest in those things, thinking that actually there will be something good coming out of that. There's always been technology revolutions have been like that. They always come with lots of byproducts and negative sides to it, but hopefully the good overweighs the bad, and it's beneficial in the end for people and for the way we interact with information through the internet. So more to talk about, but interesting in that respect. Right. So why am I excited about all this Web3 concept and technology, NFTs, all of that? I already explained why I'm interested about blockchain technology, and that's for me it's about a business model, how this is potential to disrupt existing business model by bringing what I call the digital native approach. So these digital currencies, cryptocurrencies, are by definition digital, natively digital, and we can build different business models around that technology of no need for centralized validation process, no centralized authority. It's all the different actors are part of a network, peer-to-peer. There are smart contracts that are automated. The governance of that environment is sort of automated around a set of basic principles, and so you're able to have this on autopilot almost, and so you can build a microcosmos, almost a microeconomy, and that fits really well with the idea of a digital community that is not necessarily all in the same place at the same time. See, when we were making communities in the past, obviously we had commonality of time and place, but here we don't need to have commonality of time and place, and through the internet we can be anywhere, everywhere, and that's what we've learned. And for some people came to this during the pandemic because they were had the opportunity to work online before, or and never really made this their day-to-day routine. So now that we've learned how we can sort of free ourselves from commonalities of place and time and be with other people, whereas they are in different countries and etc., then why not have this extension of a community and actually have a currency native to that, and a way to organize our transactions together differently. So I think the next thing to talk about in that once you've got this community is NFTs. I mean, what are NFTs? The people think, because of the press and media around CryptoPunks and all these sort of pixelated JPEGs is what people like to criticize them as, and they are so much more than that. People see, I don't understand NFTs, they're just some sort of pictures that got sold for millions of dollars. It makes no sense, because I would never spend that kind of money on a pixelated JPEG. Why would I? Digital It's you can copy it. I can have one. I can print it. I can put it on my wall. I don't need to spend money on that. It's free. So I mean, that's the model in which we've grown up, most of us, anyway. And so what NFTs have brought is actually first thing you need to understand is actually it brought scarcity to a digital asset. So why would you want that? Why would I want my digital asset to be scarce? The very definition of a digital asset is it's digital, and I can make a million copies of it, and they're all the same quality, same design, same everything. So it's something I can replicate and duplicate as much as I want. Yes, but the ability to attach a serial number to it and say, well, there are only 5,000 originals. It's interesting. And it doesn't stop you from copying it. That it doesn't matter. Why? Well, if say I'm a digital artist and I make music or make pictures, graphics, or I take photos of landscapes and stuff, and I'm looking for revenue. I want people to support me. So I need a community of ambassadors and people who are following me, right? So I got, I go to Web to Model and social media that we all know, Instagram, Facebook, etc., and I create content there where I can be copied, and then people follow me, they love me, they think it's great. I put a link to my shop. I get a conversion rate, maybe 1%, 2%, 3%. I have this big community of people who follow me, but I have very small conversion rate. And I got to keep advertising, and it's going to cost because these big platforms charge me for that advertising. And so we've got a model that's kind of, working, but not working. I mean, it helped us to get where we are today, but it hasn't really moved and made this the big thing that it needs to be. When you think about the size of some other economies and the size of this, well, the ones screaming it are the big social media companies. And no disrespect, they've done a fantastic job. It's a great model, and we wouldn't have survived without them almost. But it's time for a transition. It's time for a model that puts the creator at the center of that economy. And so there could be many more small artists living of their art rather than, the situation we have now, which is, we still have a lot of content creators that are doing this for free because they can't monetize it well enough to actually make a living out of it. So if you're a musician, or if you're, you don't have to go through a music producer. And these days, technologies, I've got nothing against music producers. They may still survive that, and work differently. But we'll need to adapt. And so, why can't artists just produce their own music? And so if you had an NFT, it's a token, and say, I follow this musician, I have this VIP card from that guy, I buy this, and it gives me a set of rights. So an NFT is not a pixelated picture, it's a rights holder token. And it's much more than that even. I'm just going to get into the details of it. And I don't pretend to know everything there is to know about NFTs either. I'm just discovering this as I'm, in my journey in the crypto world. So NFTs are a smart contract on the blockchain. And they basically, if you've got an NFT in your crypto wallet, then you access a set of rights attached to that NFT, and these rights might be that you're entitled to listen firsthand to the new work that's produced by that artist, or that you're able to download those songs into your playlist, and that you have the satisfaction of knowing that by buying that NFT or buying this digital token, you're actually supporting that artist in their word. So that's really a valuable thing. Apologies for that. I've had to close the roof. The weather in New Zealand is really at this season absolutely changing really, really fast. compared just a few minutes ago, it was a bright blue sky and great sunshine, and now got this big gray cloud that's threatening. And I try to catch as much sun as I can, being a Mediterranean sunshine addict, but unfortunately this isn't the season for it here. We're entering winter here in the month of June in New Zealand. So back to my NFT discussion here, and I just explained how NFTs are tokens and how they've got a smart contract attached to it, and it does things, and there's a whole new wave of NFTs out there now that have got what we call dynamic, the dynamic NFTs. And so you've got a set of attributes in that smart contract that can be changed once the smart contract has been minted. So normally non-fungible tokens, NFTs, are something that is minted and is there forever. It's but as I guess it's a semi non-fungible NFTs, with dynamic NFTs, which are something where you can actually have a set of attributes that you can change, and that's normal in a smart contract. You can change attributes, but here you have a right holder token, and you have some other bits into it that can be adjusted and changed. So I don't know, we can imagine applications for these. They don't all exist. These are all technologies that are in the pioneering stage, and there's more and more things that are being done from a marketing perspective with NFTs. Athletes and memorabilia attached to it, and event rights attached to it, and first sort of mainly I would just look at those as a right holder scenario. So you've got benefits attached to it, and two, it's a connection with the community and a way to crystallize a community around something if you're trying to make a living out of something that you create, a content that you create, well, you are in need of being in touch with the community and understanding what their needs are, how they enjoy the experience, and what they want to see next. Sometimes it's a very iterative process, and artists feed themselves also from their fans. So NFTs are that digital asset that allows for that connection to happen. And because that connection is outside of time and place, again, and it's a worldwide, global, connection, it's more a two-way conversation with your fans. And that's why you've seen the rise of what we call the Discord servers, which is some sort of chat app, but in a much more sophisticated way. They can, you have this app called Discord, and you open the server, and then you've got all these channels inside. You can share content, you can go into different channels and do different things, and then you can run bots on those channels to kind of manage that and automate some, like a macro scenario where you can automate things that happen in those channels. So they are a bit of a, if you go back to the days of communities, people were opening these online community servers outside of, I'm talking really early days of the internet. I don't know if this still exists, but they had these online digital communities where you could connect on a server, and then you had a chat rooms, and then you had a mail server kind of thing, and then you were able to post stuff. I mean, think of Yahoo forums, it's a bit like that in a way. Anyway, so that just replicates this on a blockchain scenario. So that's NFTs and Discord and community building. And so it brings us to the whole Web3 discussion. What is Web3? People say, that's just vagaries that don't understand what Web3 is. Why do you need a specific acronym for that at all? It's all the same thing. Well, Web 1, and I'm going to borrow some of the terminology developed by A16Z. Some are against them and some like them, and I think they've got the merit of, as an EVC, they put their money where they think the future is, and that gives them a right to build a bit of PR around that later on and try to spin it off, because yes, it is about, if you've invested in something, you want to spin it off and see it succeed, so you can sell it and make an exit. So yeah, I'm aware of the capitalistic mechanisms behind that. I don't think that's wrong. And just take it with a pinch of salt when you hear all the spin. There is no smoke without fire in that scenario, and if they put their money there, it's because they do believe there is something there. So if we look at web, what is Web 1? Well, it's the origins of the internet and the web in particular, where we put HTML content. That's just a read scenario. I put all these websites up there, and all I'm doing on it is read information. Yep, that's okay. Web 2 arrived, and that's the event of all these social media. So you can, now you have content, and now I'm able to comment back on it. So I can post comments, and then there was the start of all the blogging communities that people start. Yeah, I want to blog, and then it's beginning of building communities. So I kind of get in touch with my fans, and I produce content for them, and they comment back. This is in the free world. It's the freemium economy, right? We've had all these acronyms back then. The freemium, and when we understood that if you were, and now it's raining, so see, I was right to quickly close the roof. The freemium economy, we quickly learned that if the product is free, then you are the product, which meant we're going to mine your data. So we're going to just look at your behavior online, and we're going to try to monetize and convert some of that, information that we've gathered about you. So this is Web 2, in a scenario where you had this concentration of all these social media, and you saw the emergence of, Twitter and Instagram and WhatsApp and all these chat platforms, and these Facebook and Google came and went with their different experiments. Google's really funny in that respect. They always put up software, and last 3, 4, 5 years, then take it down and do something else. It's really an experimentation lab, and I just failed to buy it and some of that stuff. I like everything they do. I was very interested in some of their experiments, but as an ongoing viable product, I just don't really use Google so much. I mean, I use Google Docs, yes, and Google Drive sometimes, but I'm not a big, I kind of try to keep my data away from Google, and I know I can't escape them, but I try to keep it away as much as I can. So you've got all these big Web 2 companies, big tech corporates, and we've seen all the issues that has actually led to where the data gets hacked, your passwords out there, and you act or mined or exploited in one way or another. So there comes Web 3. And what is Web 3 conceptually? Because, of course, again, it's a different acronym, but we're all talking about the same thing in its evolution. Web 3 is an era where now the users are at the center of content creation, and the content is delocalized. That's stored on servers and ledgers on blockchains, and that's immutable, transparent, and can be audited. You go and look at the details of blockchain transactions. They're open everywhere. You can actually trace down and see which wallets did which operation. And it's a model where user gets remunerated or rewarded or has the opportunity to monetize their content and their content creation and their data in a way that suits them. So they can, ideally block it or benefit from it. So it's a different. So a lot of that is still to be built, but that's the principle that people like proponents of Web3 work towards. Now, there's a lot of things that need to be sorted and solved on blockchains. The identity on blockchain and how to make this safe and secure. People use crypto wallets at the moment. The onboarding experience is poor at best. There are many crypto wallets out there, not sure which one to use. The application that you want to use it on, maybe not recognizing that particular crypto wallet. You have to go to an exchange. You have to transfer from what they call fiat currencies. We're not talking about the car manufacturer, but actual dollars or yens or euros or whatever your currency is, to buy bitcoins or to buy ethereums or to buy one of those cryptocurrencies that you're interested in. So you can then buy those tokens or and participate in what you want to participate on. So you need to have those on a wallet. It's called a wallet. It's an app in the end, but you transfer that money into your wallet. It needs to arrive, and then from that wallet you hook that wallet up to your application, blockchain application that you want to use, and you buy that NFT that you want to buy, or you transfer those funds into Ethereum so you can buy those tokens that you want to buy, etc., etc. So it is a bit of a daunting experience. The wallets are complicated. They have all these crypto keys that you need to keep, this phrase that you need to memorize or write down somewhere, and actually be careful with that. I'm not giving you any advice. I'm pretty sure that I might have forgotten some of mine. I've opened 4 to 5 wallets. Put $50 on it or $200 on it or something like that, just to understand the experience. I do not own any massive amount of crypto assets. I bought a few NFTs to see how that works. I follow a project which I think is got a lot of legs, which is the guys at Fluff World and what they do, and the centrality ecosystem. The guy called Aaron McDonald, quite clever. I like the way they're building. I like the way they're marketing their stuff. So I did buy Fluff and a couple of assets around that in that ecosystem, mainly to understand how that works and mainly to experience that, get that user experience to because you can't talk about it and you can't understand where the whole thing is going unless you've actually put your fingers into it. So I did that. I'm not very active. I'm not planning to buy the whole world in there. I'm not really, I kind of a bit old-fashioned in that respect. My funds priority for spending goes to family and paying back my mortgage and building SymbionIQ, which is the project that I'm working on right now. SymbionIQ Labs. So that's really where I'm at. So crypto is this experiment that I'm looking at. But Web3 is a bit of a promise at the moment. It's that different ways. We had read Web 1, we had read write Web 2. That's the A16Z sort of mental model for this. And now we read write own, which is Web 3. And ownership is that dimension where you put a user at the center and content creator sort of mode. And I like that concept. So I bought into that concept mentally. I am interested. I think that's the right way to go. And I think, it has implications all the way down to democracy here in some ways. And you want people to engage in the democratic process of their countries and be more active and take part. Well, somehow this does offer you a mental model for that, as in people would have more of a participating role in the life of their country, and so I think that's got some legs. So that's in a nutshell my understanding of the world of crypto, Web3, NFTs, smart contracts, and why I think it's got a lot of interest going forward to kind of change the way things are done right now on the internet in a better way for people. It's not this big communist ideal or anything, but we live in a digital world. I believe we do. I know people want to disconnect and have a sort of backlash of technology and think, we need to free ourselves from all of this because it's no good. In some ways, sometimes it's good to disconnect, but the reality is this has brought a whole new perspective and a whole new way to do things. Now, I don't want to fall into the dystopians, visions of Ready Player One, where everybody lives in some sort of bubble and monetizes what they do in some sort of game environment out there, whereas you realize you're actually, controlled by a society and sort of part as sheep into and get you something to do, so you don't become a cog in the wheel. So I'm a cog in the wheel. I tend to like doing that. I guess I'm French, so my DNA goes to being a revolutionary cog in the wheel. Yes, I'm really excited about those technologies. I think they've got legs, and properly executed, they are going to be our future. So here it is from me. You're hopefully you've enjoyed that. It didn't go very deep into the technical side of things. That's not what I aim to do. I'm talking more vagaries, as says my opponents, more vagaries from the Web3 people. But hopefully it gave you some sort of framework to think about this and make up your own mind, whether you like it or not. I think it's happening, we all need to understand what's happening at least. Thanks a lot for listening. Take care. Thanks a lot for watching. If you want to find out more, please go to SymbionIQ.com. There you'll find all the socials and the different ways you can follow us. In the meanwhile, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe, help the algorithm by clicking like. And if you want to make some comments, please don't hesitate. I'll try to read everything and answer everyone. If you find this interesting, don't hesitate to share it with a colleague or a friend. That always helps spread the word. And that's all for me today. So see you in the next episode.